The previous lesson introduced us to the Ahom kingdom. In that lesson, we got to know about the Ahoms who initially began as a tribe and then went on to forming their own kingdom. From that, we also understood that many kingdoms who were initially tribes were inspired by the success of the Rajput rulers, which is why from being tribes, they formed their own kingdoms. One such kingdom was the Ahom kingdom, and that is something we have discussed in our previous lesson. Now it is time to discuss about another kingdom who also began as a tribe and then went on to forming their own kingdom. Who are we talking about in this regard? We are talking about the Gonds. So let us now embark on this journey and find out about the very fascinating history of the Gonds and how they formed their own kingdom. I hope most of you, if not all, have already recognized the film from which the last clip was shown. Yes, you are right. It is from the movie Jungle Book. Now, the Jungle Book was written by the author Rudyard Kipling. But with this, a very pertinent question must be coming to your mind. Why are we suddenly talking about the Jungle Book while discussing about the Gonds? Allow me to give you a very interesting fact here. The book Jungle Book that was written by Rudyard Kipling contains mention of the Gond tribe, which is why we began this discussion by showing a clip of the Jungle Book. Now, the Gonds have been one of the most ancient tribes in the Indian subcontinent, and they have had a very fascinating history because we have learned that they were inspired by the success of the Rajput rulers, which is why from being a tribe they went on to establishing their kingdom. But when we talk about a kingdom, many questions come to our mind, as in where was this kingdom located, how was this kingdom administered, as in how was the administrative system of this kingdom. So these are few of the questions that we will be trying to answer in this lesson. Any discussion, be that on any kingdom or any territory, will remain incomplete without talking about the geographical location of that kingdom or territory. This is because the geographical location of any place plays a major role in shaping the lives of the people who live there. So from this, the question that we have to answer is, where was this Gond kingdom located? Between the 14th and 15th century, the Gonds lived in a vast forested region that was known as the Gondwana. On this map, you can see the region that was known as the Gondwana, and this is the place where the Gonds lived. In present-day India, this Gondwana region is spread across the states of Madhya Pradesh, Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. Now, in this regard, a very important point that you have to keep in mind is that the people of the Gond tribe still live in various parts of the Indian nation. And now it's time to find out more about the history of the Gond tribe. Now, can you enlist some of the very necessary things that we require for our everyday survival? After shelter and clothing, the most important thing that we need for our sustenance is food. And when any tribe, any kingdom or any empire lives somewhere, they require food. And in order to feed the ever-growing population, more and more food is required. But from where did the Gonds get their food? They had to practice agriculture in order to feed the population. Now, what kind of agricultural practices did the Gonds pursue? They practiced something known as the shifting cultivation. Now, this term might be new to you because you might not be familiar with this concept of shifting cultivation. So, allow me to explain to you what this shifting cultivation means. Shifting cultivation is an agricultural system in which lands are first cultivated and then they are abandoned and people move to a different region to cultivate new lands. But how is this shifting cultivation practiced? In this practice of shifting cultivation, trees and bushes of forested areas are firstly burnt. And after these trees and bushes are burnt, seeds are now sown on the ashes which grow into crops. But with time, these lands lose their fertility very easily. This is because ashes of burnt trees and bushes are sprayed on the land, and it means that the land is rendered infertile, which is why people cannot practice shifting cultivation on one region for a very long time. But what do? After that land, or after that one region of land is rendered infertile, people now move to different regions where they now practice shifting cultivation on newer lands. So this is a practice that was followed by the people of the Gond tribe to get food for the growing population. From this we can learn that a lot of people were living under this one Gond tribe. And we can also understand that this method of shifting cultivation was practiced to feed the population. But whenever a group of people start living in any area, a very important thing that needs to be taken care of is administration. Now, how did the Gonds administer their own regions? For the purpose of administration, the Gond tribe was divided into many smaller clans. Now, who ruled these smaller clans? Because without a leader or a ruler, no territorial unit can exist. There will be chaos and mayhem in that area. So we learned that for the purpose of administration, the Gond tribe was divided into several smaller clans. And these smaller clans were ruled by the Raja or Rai. Every clan had its own Raja or Rai who worked as the ruler of that clan. Another thing that we have to discuss here is the decline of the Delhi Sultans. But a question must be coming to your mind as to how is the decline of the Delhi Sultans of any importance in our discussion. This is because when the power of the Delhi Sultans was declining, the larger Gond chiefs or the chiefs of the larger Gond tribes were now gaining power, because the power of the Delhi Sultans was now in a process of decentralization, which invariably meant that the larger Gond chiefs were now gaining more power. What did they do after their power increased? Following this, they now went on to dominating the smaller Gond chiefs. So this now led to an inequality of power among the various Gond chiefs, because following the decline of the Delhi Sultans, there emerged the large Gond chiefs who now began to dominate the smaller Gond chiefs. While on the one hand we talked about the decentralization of the power of the Delhi Sultans, around this time various kingdoms were also engaged in the process of centralizing their power. And the Gond tribe was no exception. The Gond tribes were also in the process of making their power centralized. What does this mean? By having a centralized power system, it means that there is one ruler or one chief or one king at the head of everything. And that chief or that ruler at the helm of everything takes care of various sub-units that come under his purview. In the same way, the Gond tribe or the power in the Gond tribe was centralized, and there was a Gond king at the top of everything, and below him there were several units that we will now find out. At the center of everything was the Gond kingdom, and this Gond kingdom was divided into several smaller Gars, which are equivalent to modern day states and union territories. Now you must be familiar with this system. India is a country which is the larger unit, and inside it we have several states. Why do we have this division of states? This is for the purpose of administration, because had there been just one nation which is so huge in size, administration could not have been done very smoothly and efficiently, which is why the country is divided into several smaller units that are known as states. Similarly, the Gond kingdom was also divided into several smaller units that were known as the Gars. Now these Gars were also further divided into the Chaurasi. The Chaurasi was a unit of 84 villages. These 84 villages together comprised a Chaurasi that was a subdivision of the Gars. Now this Chaurasia was further divided into the Barhots. What were these Barhots? 12 villages together comprised the Barhots. So what could we learn from this? We learnt that the Gond administration was centralized because at the top of everything was the Gond kingdom. This Gond kingdom was ruled by the Gond chief or the Gond head. Following this, the Gond kingdom was divided into Gars, which were again divided into Chaurasia or 84 villages, and which were finally divided into Barhots, which were units of 12 villages. So this is the system in which the Gond kingdom was divided into several units, and this was done for the purpose of better and more efficient administration. We began this lesson by seeing a clip of the Jungle Book, and it is the Jungle Book that contains mention of the Gond tribe. This is something that we have already discussed. But mentions of the Gond kingdom could also be found in Akbarnama. What is Akbarnama? It is the biography of the Mughal Emperor Akbar that was written by Abul Fazl. And what does this Akbarnama mention about the Gond kingdom? The Akbarnama mentions about the Gond kingdom of Garha Katanga. On this map, you can locate the Gond kingdom of Garha Katanga. And from this, what do we get to know about Garha Katanga? From Akbarnama, we get this information that Garha Katanga consisted of 70,000 villages. So can you understand how huge this Gond kingdom of Garha Katanga must have been? Because it comprised 70,000 villages, and by 70,000 villages we can understand so many people lived in Garha Katanga. And this is something that we get to know from Akbarnama. Before proceeding with this lesson, let me ask you a question quickly. Which Mughal ruler's biography contains mention of the Gond kingdom of Garha Katanga? Is it the biography of Babur, Akbar, Humayun or Jahangir? Well, you guessed it right. It is the biography of Akbar, that is known as the Akbarnama, that contains mention of the Gond kingdom of Garha Katanga. A society is something that is never static over a period of time. What do I mean by this? By this I mean that societies always go through phases of evolution and changes. No society remains the same over the ages. And something similar also happened to the Gond society. That is to say, the emergence of large states led to changes in the nature of the Gond society. But which were the large states that emerged and led to changes in the nature of the Gond society? And why did these large states emerge in the first place? For this, you have to jog your memory back to the beginning of this lesson. From there, we learned that the power of the Delhi Sultans was declining, following which many large Gond chiefs began to dominate the smaller Gond chiefs. This is a point that we have already discussed. But following the decline of the Delhi Sultans, several small states and kingdoms now came into being. How was it so? This is because there were many governors of different provinces and puppet kings who used to pay revenue and tributes to the Delhi Sultanate. And when this Delhi Sultanate was fading out of power, these rulers or these small governors now went on to having their own kingdoms, which is why this was a time when many large states and kingdoms were coming into being. And this inevitably meant that the nature of the Gond society was also changing. A point that we have been discussing for quite some time is that these tribals lived at the fringes of the society, which is why the mainstream society or the large states that remained in the mainstream society played a major role in impacting the lives of the tribals. So the emergence of these large states also led to changes in the nature of the Gond society. Let us now find out in detail how these changes took place and what these changes resulted in. Along with the emergence of the large states, another thing was also happening that contributed to changes in the nature of the Gond society. What was that? Around this time, the Brahmanas were gaining importance within Hinduism, which is why the society that was previously equal and not divided on the grounds of castes now came to be divided into various unequal social classes. This illustration tells you that the erstwhile equal society now became very unequal. There was inequality in the society in ways more than one. And the Brahmanas became so powerful and prominent around this time that various Gond chiefs also began to give land grants to these Brahmanas. What did this lead to? As in, what was the repercussion of this? Following this, the Brahmanas now started gaining more power, because the Gond Rajas were giving land grants to the Brahmanas, which means that there was an unequal distribution of resources. The lands that previously belonged to the Gond tribes now went under the control of the Brahmanas, who were already gaining importance. So you can understand how the emergence of large states simultaneously with the gaining power of the Brahmanas led to many changes within the nature of the Gond society itself. In the beginning of our last lesson on the Ahom kingdom, we got to learn that many tribals were inspired by the success of the Rajput rulers, who also began as tribals initially. And following the success stories of the Rajput rulers, the Ahoms and the Gonds went on to forming their own kingdoms. Now from this, we can also understand that many Gond chiefs aspired for more power. Because once someone sees the face of power, can they ever come back from that? I don't think so, because they will be hungry for more power, for greater recognition. And that is something that happened to many Gond chiefs as well. Many Gond chiefs now aspired to gain the recognition that the Rajputs had gained. They thought that they would be able to gain the recognition, the power, the dominance of the Rajputs. And when we talk about this aspiration for Rajput recognition, mention must be made of the Gond chief by the name of Amandas. Now Amandas was a Gond king of Garha-Katanga. Just a while ago we talked about Garha-Katanga, which was a huge Gond kingdom, and it was Amandas who was one of the Gond kings of Garha-Katanga. Now he wanted to gain power and recognition like the Rajputs, and soon after he assumed the title of Sangram Shah. Can you tell me why he assumed this title? This is because by assuming a new title for himself, Amandas wanted to reassert his authority. And now let us find out what Amandas did to further move ahead in his plan of gaining Rajput recognition. In ancient and medieval times, the hunger for power assumed the shape of forging matrimonial alliances. But what does this mean? What was the outcome of forging matrimonial alliances? In these times, many rulers who wanted to gain more power, who wanted to gain greater wealth, often forged matrimonial alliances with the rulers of leading families. And by aligning themselves with the rulers of leading families, they were able to gain greater recognition. Now this was something that we could see in the case of the Gond kingdom as well. What happened here? It was Dalpat who was the son of Sangram Shah. We have already learned that Sangram Shah had a hunger to gain Rajput recognition. That is to say, he wanted to be as prominent, as powerful, as courageous, and as well known as the Rajputs. What did he do? He got his son Dalpat married to Durgavati. Now who was Durgavati? Durgavati was the daughter of Salbahan, who was the Chandil Rajput Raja of Mahoba. Here you can locate Mahoba, which is presently situated in the Indian state of Uttar Pradesh. Now by getting his son Dalpat married to the daughter of the Rajput Raja of Mahoba, Sangram Shah was able to forge a matrimonial alliance with the Rajput. So can you understand how forging matrimonial alliance and relationships with powerful ruling families could bring one greater fame, bring one greater recognition? But what happened after Dalpat was married to Durgavati? It is now time to find out an answer to this question. To his misfortune, Dalpat did not live for a long time, and he died soon after his marriage with Durgavati. What happened after Dalpat's death? Following the death of Dalpat, it was Rani Durgavati who now started ruling on behalf of her minor son Bir Narayan. Bir Narayan was only 5 years of age when Dalpat died, and it was then Rani Durgavati who now started ruling. And you must definitely keep this very important point in mind, that it was during the rule of Rani Durgavati that the Gond kingdom became even larger. So the Gond kingdom became larger and more powerful when Rani Durgavati was ruling it following the death of her husband Dalpat. But the glory of Rani Durgavati and the Gond kingdom did not last for long. Why is it so? This is because Asaf Khan, who was a Muslim nobleman of the Mughal Empire during the rule of Akbar, now attacked Garha Katanga in the year 1565. So we learned that following the death of Dalpat, it was Rani Durgavati who was ruling, and during her rule, the Gond kingdom also became larger and more powerful. But this period of glory came to an end when Asaf Khan now attacked Garha Katanga. Do you think that Rani Durgavati surrendered very easily? Definitely not, because she was a fearsome ruler, which is why she strongly resisted. But unfortunately, Rani Durgavati was ultimately defeated at the hands of Asaf Khan and the Mughal Empire at large. And after Rani Durgavati was defeated, it was her son Bir Narayan who fought but was again defeated by the Mughal Empire. So this now means that the Mughal Empire attacked and defeated Rani Durgavati and Garha Katanga at large. With the defeat of the Gonds and Garha Katanga at the hands of the Mughal Empire, we can now see various changes that took place in the Gond kingdom. What is it so? Firstly, we have to keep in mind that the Gonds gained a huge amount of wealth and resources by capturing and selling elephants to different kingdoms. Now, when the Mughals defeated the Gonds, they captured a huge booty of precious coins and elephants. So you can see how the wealth and resources that previously belonged to the Gond kingdom was plundered and looted by the Mughal Empire. But do you think the Mughals defeated and annexed the entire Gond kingdom? But they did not do so. The Mughals annexed only parts of the kingdom. And what happened to the rest of the kingdom that previously belonged to the Gond? The rest of the kingdom now was given to Bir Narayan's uncle, which was Chandra Shah. So it was Bir Narayan's uncle Chandra Shah who now got the rest of the Gond kingdom, and the bigger part of it went under the control of the Mughals. All good things that rise to glory also come to an end soon. And this is something that we can see in the case of the Gond kingdom as well. Now the Gond kingdom of Garha Katanga was defeated by the Mughals. But after that, several smaller Gond kingdoms still continued to rule. But their rule did not last for long, because following the fall of Garha Katanga, these smaller Gond kingdoms now started losing their power. They became weaker and weaker, and eventually they gave way. So the final end of the Gond kingdom was determined by the Mughal Empire. But this was not the end of it, because following this fall, the Gonds were also defeated by the Bundelas and the Marathas. What happened in this case? Now the Gonds were embroiled in struggles against the Bundelas and the Marathas, and invariably the Gonds failed. Where were these Bundelas and Marathas ruling at that time? The Bundelas ruled a region known as Bundelkhand that lies in the north-central part of the Indian subcontinent. Now Bundelkhand has Uttar Pradesh to its north and Madhya Pradesh to its south, and it is located in the north-central part of the country. And the Marathas ruled around the western part of the Indian subcontinent, and this Maratha kingdom or this region now falls in the present-day Indian state of Maharashtra. And the Gonds, who had already been rendered very weak following the fall of Garhakatanga, now could not resist the attack of the Bundelas and the Marathas. So with this, the Gond kingdom now faded out of power. But it will be wrong to say that the Gond kingdom entirely faded out of power and these Gonds were swept out of existence. This is because we can see people of the Gond tribes in the Indian country even today. With this, we come to an end of our discussion on the Gond tribe. What did we learn here? We learned that this was a tribe that could be found in a region that was known as the Gondwana. This tribe, following the success story of the Rajputs, much like the Ahom, went on to forming their own kingdom. In this lesson, we were also introduced to the administrative system of the Gonds. We got to know that the Gond administration was centralized and it was divided into several small units. We also learned that the Gonds practiced shifting cultivation to feed the population. But the Gond kingdom came to an end with its defeat at the hands of the Mughals firstly, and then because it failed to resist the attack of the Bundelas and the Marathas. Now in a subsequent lesson, we will now try to focus on few other tribes that were spread across the Indian subcontinent and how powerful they became around this time. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon. You can also register for free at DeltaStep.com or download the DeltaStep app to learn one-to-one with our amazing teachers or to get access to all our 5,000 plus amazing videos as per your school syllabus. Master each topic with our adaptive practice technology. Get million plus questions with step-by-step solutions and unlimited mock tests. Get all your doubts resolved instantly. Learn via games and win amazing prizes like PlayStations and iPads. So at DeltaStep, learning is not just fun and easy, it's rewarding too. So register for free now.